In the early hours of August 16, 1977, Graceland was silent, too silent for a home built on decades of music that shook the world. Outside the iron gates, fans pressed their faces against the bars, waiting for any sign of their idol, unaware that the man who once electrified stadiums now lay lifeless behind closed doors. The lights inside flickered, shadows moved, voices whispered, but nothing could change what had already happened. The king of rock and roll had fallen alone in his palace. The world would soon receive the shock. The man who had made millions scream, the man whose hips defined a generation, the man who became a symbol of American excess and American dreams, was gone at just 42. Fame had given him everything, then quietly taken everything back. But before the headlines and the tears, before the nation mourned the impossible, there was simply a boy from the poorest side of Tupelo, a boy who grew up believing music could save him. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Elvis Aaron Presley entered the world on January 8, 1935, during one of the coldest winters Mississippi had seen. He was born in a two-room shotgun house built by his father, Vernon, a man who tried, and often failed, to keep the family afloat. His twin brother, Jesse Garon, was stillborn, leaving Elvis to grow up with a silence beside him that shaped his soul. It was a loss he never spoke about often, but it followed him like a shadow he could never outrun. Life was not kind to the Presleys. Money slipped through their hands faster than they could earn it, and Vernon's brief imprisonment for forging a check left the family bruised with shame. Elvis watched his mother, Gladys, stretch every dollar, holding the family together with tenderness and worry. She was his anchor, the soft force that shaped his gentle heart. And her love became the emotional foundation of his entire life. In the black neighborhoods of Tupelo and later Memphis, Elvis absorbed the sounds that would define him. He wandered past gospel tents, listening to voices that shook the earth. He stood outside blues clubs, eyes wide, feeling rhythms that felt too powerful for his small body. He didn't know it then, but the music of struggle and hope surrounding him would become the language he used to speak to the world. The spark arrived quietly, as most revolutions do. At 12, Elvis received his first guitar, a gift that puzzled him. He wanted a bicycle, maybe a rifle, something a boy could show off to his friends. Instead, he received an instrument no one expected him to master. But when he held it for the first time, something inside him clicked, a sense that this wooden box had a voice waiting for him to unlock. He practiced relentlessly, despite being teased for his long hair, his shy nature, and the strange mix of musical influences he carried. In school talent shows, his voice trembled with nerves, yet even then the audience sensed something different about him, a raw emotion, a vulnerability that made people lean in. He didn't dress like the other boys either. He wore flashy clothes, dyed fabrics, bold patterns. It wasn't rebellion, it was expression. A quiet boy speaking loudly without words. By the time he walked into Sun Records in 1953 to record a simple acetate for his mother, he was unknowingly stepping into destiny. The receptionist thought he looked unusual, the producer thought he sounded ordinary. But beneath his polite smile and unsure voice was a spark waiting for the right moment to erupt. For months, Elvis returned to Sun Records, trying to capture the attention of producer Sam Phillips. His early attempts fell flat, too polished, too imitative, too unsure of who he was supposed to be. Rejection followed him like a quiet companion. He worked long hours as a truck driver, dreaming of stages he had never seen but somehow believed were waiting for him. At night he practiced until his fingers burned, chasing a sound he couldn't yet define. The real struggle wasn't talent, it was identity. Elvis didn't fit any mold the industry recognized. He wasn't a blues singer, though he carried its soul. He wasn't a gospel singer, though he felt it in his bones. He wasn't a country boy, though he grew up surrounded by it. He was something new, something that frightened people because they couldn't explain it. At home, pressure grew. His father doubted the practicality of his dreams. His mother worried the world would be too harsh for her sensitive boy. Elvis himself wavered, torn between the security of an ordinary job and the restless pull of the music inside him. He feared failure, but he feared regret more. Then, one night in 1954, during a break in a stalled recording session, Elvis picked up his guitar and began fooling around with an upbeat version of "That's All Right." His foot tapped, his hips moved, his voice loosened. It was playful, messy, spontaneous. But Sam Phillips heard it, the sound of a new America being born. The struggle had finally cracked open. The release of "That's All Right" on Memphis radio triggered something unprecedented. Phone lines jammed. Teenagers screamed. Parents frowned. Nothing about Elvis Presley fit the expectations of the time. His voice blended cultures, his movements defied the conservative values of 1950s America, and his energy felt almost dangerous. But danger, to the young generation, was irresistible. By 1956, Elvis had become a national sensation. His first RCA single, "Heartbreak Hotel," tore through the charts. His television appearances sent shockwaves. The curled lip, the swiveling hips, the raw electricity of a performer who didn't care about the rules. Studio executives scrambled to control him. Preachers warned their congregations. But the teenagers knew, they were witnessing something they had never seen before. The breakthrough came with a mix of exhilaration and fear. Elvis was suddenly everywhere: magazines, radio, film studios. It was a dream realized, yet he felt the weight of expectations growing faster than fame itself. He had wanted success, but not the cage that came with it. Success brought excess, and excess soon revealed its cost. After his mother's death in 1958, Elvis cracked open in ways the public never saw. She had been his emotional home, his grounding force. With her gone, fame could no longer mask his loneliness. Even in rooms filled with people, he felt abandoned. The pressures of Hollywood pushed him toward a manufactured image he detested. Clean-cut roles, predictable plots, formula films that stripped away the raw energy of his early days. By the late 60s, Elvis was fading, his music overshadowed by the British invasion and the changing landscape of American culture. Critics dismissed him as outdated. Fans wondered if the king had lost his crown. Then came the darker spiral: prescription drugs. They began as harmless helpers, pills to sleep, pills to wake, pills to perform. But slowly they took over his life. His body bloated, his face puffed, his voice sometimes faltered. Behind the gates of Graceland, he isolated himself, surrounded by an entourage that enabled rather than intervened. He wanted connection, but couldn't trust anyone. He wanted peace, but fame refused to loosen its grip. Elvis had conquered the world, but couldn't conquer the emptiness inside him. Yet even in his darkest moments, Elvis kept reaching for redemption through the only thing that had ever saved him: music. The 1968 comeback special reignited the fire he thought he had lost. Dressed in black leather, sweating under the stage lights, he reclaimed the raw power that once defined him. The world watched in awe as the king rose again, wounded, older, but undeniably alive. His final years were turbulent, but they were also filled with moments of generosity, vulnerability, and deep humanity. He gave away cars, houses, jewelry. Not out of extravagance, but trying to buy pieces of joy he struggled to feel. He sang with a desperate sincerity that made audiences cry. He tried, again and again, to outrun the crown that both lifted and crushed him. Elvis Presley didn't survive his own legend. But his legacy became something far larger than the man. He transformed American music. He bridged cultures. He shattered barriers of race, sound, and performance. He redefined what a superstar could be, and what it could cost. Today, his voice still echoes. His influence still shapes artists around the world. And his story reminds us of a truth we all feel but rarely admit. Greatness can lift a person higher than they ever imagined, but it can also place them on a mountain so lonely, no one can reach them. Like, share and subscribe.